Hi, everyone. The year has come to an end, and I wanted to thank everyone for being part of projections this year. We had some great presenters, and the audience has been terrific coming in all throughout the year. I want to thank our sponsors, Pro Photo Daily, American Photography, Pro Photo Shelter, Epson, and B&H. This marks our 10th year of completion with over 450 photographers who've presented with us. And I'm really, really happy about that. And I can't thank you all enough for coming in and being part of our community. It's really been a wonderful ride. And the presenters, from all parts of the world have come in the middle of the night to present. We've recorded, and I put together a highlight reel. Actually, we put together two highlight reels. This is number one. Number two should be ready in a few days, and you'll get a notice on that. But it's a few snippets. I think we have a total of 45 on the two reels. Just snippets of everyone's interview, just to get a little flavor of the highlights that we've had for the year. And there's many, and we could have picked, any number of um, pieces from each person's presentation, but this is what I thought was probably a nice representation. So I wish you everyone, good health for the coming year. Again, a heartfelt thank you for always being there with us and looking forward to a great year. We have a whole bunch of terrific photographers already lined up for next year. And also, I want to thank everyone who's supported us. As you know, there's now a variety of ways to support us. If you go to the website, you can see you can become a member or a partner, donate, which has really been helpful as it relates to our overhead and our costs. I also want to thank Jay, our web guy, who has always been with me for this journey, who's helped out in a number of ways with everything we do. So happy holidays. Again, thank you. This is reel number one, and we look forward to next year. So thanks very much.
I was moved to tears this first day out. Just
Mm.
the sheer amount of people giving, donating, offering their time. The scale was just as incredible as the damage was the scale of people helping.
So here, people are actually bringing stuff, or at this point, people are looking for things for themselves.
These are all volunteers sorting
Sorting.
stuff that has been dropped off via trucks. It
Okay.
was an incredible operation. This was at the Dream Center in LA.
Mm.
See here.
It restores your faith in mankind, right?
Sure does. I mean, it was. I went with a friend, Jose, and he was doing some video work too while this was going on, and we both, I think, were talking about how moved we were. Trucks would come in, drop off stuff, other volunteers would sort, and then there's a long line of cars all through Silver Lake of people picking up goods, uh, displaced folks getting what they need.
Yeah, I mean, those last few images are very reminiscent of the images we've seen over the past almost 3 years of what's going on in Ukraine. A lot of, organized volunteering and donations, and yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
And the amount of young folks, there were kids, there were old folks, there were, I mean, everyone you can imagine was coming out. So I think that was also important for me. Again, harkening back to my experience in Baltimore after the Freddie Gray situation, seeing a lot of false information
Mm.
out just on the internet and in the world. I wanted to make sure we got this side of the story as well. That it wasn't just devastation. LA was coming together as a community to help people out.
I decided it was once I got the grant, it was time to get a better camera. I had a D80, so I went up to a D810. And the autofocus was definitely worth the price of admission. Um, and then, like for instance, the mountaineer asked me to take this picture because he wanted to show his friends back in Alaska how huge the ice crystals were.
Trusty EOS R5 um, and diffusers and a tripod and went to photograph the Met and the Guggenheim. Now, I have to admit, the Met was a bit of a disaster for me because It's much bigger than I expected to be, even with a 14 millimeter. It's difficult to get the we can easily get the original wing, but the two modern wings, it's almost impossible to get with a single shot. But most important, the biggest challenge for me is that the architecture is not exactly what I wanted for the final look I wanted. So after freezing my hands off for a while, I decided to pack, go to a coffee place, heat up my hands, and move on to the Guggenheim Museum. The Guggenheim was more successful. Why is it not? Sorry. Okay. As you can see here, the Guggenheim was more successful. I did take some long
be in the future, and just the preserving the moment is important.
And what are you shooting with, Lise?
I have a variety of cameras that I've used. It really was whatever was accessible. Some are 28 millimeter lens, a Leica Q. Some is this particular one is a Leica Q. So 28 millimeter. Some of the other images are made with a A7 III with a 24-70, or sometimes I'd use lenses that my father had given me. Nikon lenses adapted to the Sony, or a Canon lens adapted to the Sony. Really using whatever I can get my hands on, sometimes borrowing a camera or a lens. Because maybe to show a different point of view. Sometimes you want more detail. Sometimes you want something wider. Sometimes you.
I'm going to tell you, I think truly one of my true gifts is I know how to connect with people. You know, I am very empathetic. I try to get to know them. Sometimes you only have seconds, minutes, 5-10 minutes to get to know somebody. But there's a communication that goes through the eyes. I think that you could pass an energy off to a person very quickly when you're talking to them.
Well, you have to, right? That's part of
You
the
have
craft.
to, yeah.
Right? I mean,
yeah.
sometimes you have time, sometimes you just don't.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm also kind of a very hands-on guy. Even in Morocco, where you're not supposed to be so hands-on, I still used my touch, the touch of the hand, the touch of the shoulder, the touch of the cheek.
But so much of it for you, I mean, I knowing you for all these years, it's not a conscious thing, it's just who you are.
It's just who I am. It's genuine.
That's what I mean.
I'm not doing this just because I want these people to perform in front of my camera. I want to really get to know who these people are.
Right.
You know, I love people. I understand
and that's
people.
disarming for them.
It's disarming.
Right.
They become vulnerable. They become your friend very, very quickly. They trust you. What I'm trying to do, Frank, is build trust. And I need to do that quickly. And that could be with a CEO of a major corporation, or it could be somebody right off the street who's never been photographed in their life and never thought they would get photographed. I still have to build trust in that person.
I mean, this shot here is so unbelievable. The beauty of that young man, you know, just diving into the air like that.
Yes.
It's like just spectacular. Like it is, right? I mean, and is there training around that as a young boy? Do they practice that? You know, just I'm going to be a harpoonist.
Yeah, they see that, oh, there's a potential in this guy, the young guy. Probably I will, train this guy.
Oh, okay.
There's a apprenticeship kind of thing. Right. But you have to work your way up first. I went a couple of trips on that boat. Very scary. But first, because I never experienced, so I came at the lowest level. The lowest level, they give you a bucket, and for the water to go on.
So you have to work on that.
I have to work. Everybody has to participate, and there's people who work on the rope. It's a very dangerous. It has to be very precise because the rope can get tangled.
Right.
And the whale is so big. it will take your leg, it will take your arm, and some fishermen lost their arm and leg.
The water came and then the photography came after.
Correct, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing because,
No.
you know, when I look at these settings and the techniques used on above the water, you know, if you learn this basic foundation of photography above the water, you kind of have to forget everything you learn when you go underwater and
Why is that?
different shutter speeds, different lighting techniques. It's just a completely different world. So I actually I find myself quite lucky that I learned underwater because I didn't have to unlearn everything.
Right. And was there anything in particular that, or a person photographer or an event that said, this is what I want to do. This is where I love it.
I mean, one of my all-time favorite photographers is Paul Nicklin. Fantastic wildlife photographer. You know, watching his journey, you know, throughout the world just really inspired me.
Right.
There's also incredible underwater photographers, like Alex Mustard, for example.
Right.
Interesting story about that. His books was actually one of the first books I read to learn about underwater photography. And it actually came full circle later when, you know, last year or the year before, I actually won Underwater Photographer of the Year for the macro category, which is one of the photos we'll go through later. But he was the judge, or one of the judges for that particular competition. So for him to actually select my shot it really just brought things around for me full circle.
Right. And so that's sort of an adrenaline shot. I'm good enough, and you know, this is where I want to be.
Yeah, it's almost like, you know, my icon thinks I'm good enough. You know, it just lit a fire.
Was that I wanted to be of service of the other. I wanted to use my life and my purpose to serve other human beings, to, you know, but I was studying political science in Toulouse, in France, because that's what, you know, what existed there. And while I was studying political science, I started to see all of this documentary photography in the streets, in the galleries, in the museums of Toulouse. I've always been very creative. I am also a musician, I sing. So I started to see how creativity can also be, you know, included in this life, in this purpose that I wanted to fulfill, serving the other and you know, trying to express also my points of view about life, but in a creative way, no? Entonces, that's how I convinced my father and my mother to let me study photography. And I was the
But they
worst
really didn't
student.
have much of a choice.
They didn't. No,
Okay.
they did. But I made them believe.
I believe it.
But anyway, like, I was a very bad student because I only wanted to do photojournalism and reportage. I didn't want to go to the freaking dark room. It was so boring. I didn't understand anything. I was like, let's just go photograph, you know.
Right.
So I wasn't, you know, like, charmed about it. But I did understand the power of it. I did understand, and I understood the responsibility, like, right away.
This is a girl that I was part of a mission, which is a project that is still ongoing for me. She was 21 at the time, and she was hit at the legs in Chernihiv. She's a civilian, and she lost one leg on the impact immediately, and the other leg was going to be lost. But in this moment in Chernihiv, the shelling was so strong. There was no access and no humanitarian aid. They were out of electricity and fuel and water. It's very cold. Also, Chernihiv is in the north. And so she needed immediate care in Kiev. And a Red Cross operation was set up to bring humanitarian aids to the Red Cross station in Chernihiv and to extract this lady so she could be operated in Kiev. Since then, she lost 14 centimeters of bone on the good leg that she had, and she's undergone 34 operations at this time. She exited Ukraine and is in Germany, still recovering. She was 2 years in bed, and so the whole family became very good friends, and I've been documenting the story. So these are some of the stories some of the ongoing, very deep stories that I have.
Like I live in Kiev and I have friends that live in this town. Like I kind of know the town. Not that it makes it any safer, but it feels familiar. So like, hey, let's go in there, you know? And we had a couple adventures in there. but this is along the bridge. I saw this girl, I don't know, a few hundred meters away, like just when you can start to identify and say, what in God's name is she doing? You know, like, was she, are those dogs in wheelchairs? What is she wearing? What's going on? And I just waited for her in this space to pass by and took the photograph, and it became like a thing. There's a huge 5-story mural in the center of Kiev of this picture. It's a really
Wow.
kind of interesting, really interesting experience because it's on the biggest bank in Kiev has it on the credit card.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, on the bank card. I see it all the time in the store. Somebody's paying for something with the card all the time. It's wild. It's really like cool to have a like, for example, my friend Vova, the guy I was talking about, would bring me places and introduce me. Like this dude and say some crazy shit that I did, you know? And yeah, what are you talking to soldiers? So like he should stay here because he's crazy like you guys. All right. So I mean he'd talk you up. And after I took this picture, we go new places and he would say something from then and be like, and he took the picture of the girl with the dogs. And every single person is like, oh, nice. I know that. You know, you don't have to love it, but you're familiar with it. It's like a calling card. They know who you are, you know? It's
Right.
really quite useful. Like really, really nice thing for
You're that guy.
yeah, like they know who you are. They feel like they
Stabilization point in the Liman direction. It was taken in November or December 2022, when there was still a lot of access for media to stabilization point, and you would still be able to get very close to what was happening and have a better understanding of the situation on the ground. This soldier was wounded by sniper fire. I think it was in Sivesk direction, and the doctors are from the 66th Brigade, which they've done an amazing job since the beginning of the war. And I actually visited the last trip in actually two trips ago in March 2024, and I found still the same doctors still
Right.
work, and they were telling me that they didn't really have a break for 2 years, and they've been working straight.
Obviously you can tell if it's been a mortar or an artillery hit because it's smaller. You can see the initial point of impact and the spread. So this was a much larger attack. This
Right.
was a missile attack. I mean, this might have been a cab. It's a smart guided bomb that goes in. So a lot of times they'll put the device, the homing device, for lack of a better term, the guiding device onto an older bomb and then send those in. And they've been using those a lot in Kharkiv and certainly in this area. But there were two buildings next to each other, twin buildings like this, that were former dormitories. They were dormitories and then they got hit.
So I was very grateful that I had access to this community, whose lives are quite complex, and just, set out to create portraits with them.
And wait, Elena, can you speak to how they felt without you, like you say, without you judging? How were they feeling?
Well, the interesting theme throughout all of my experiences was a sense of floating and sense of being uplifted, uprooted. None of them were happy that they were living in like one of the most successful countries in Europe. Most of their experiences were they just wanted to go home. Okay, so and just throughout all of my encounters with these people, I learned that, their feelings about being privileged to be somewhere else were complex, and they missed their man and they missed their home country, which they loved dearly. And that was one of the things that was interesting to me because I have a completely different relationship to Ukraine because of my childhood and when I left and how my sort of youth was shaped by the place I lived. And they had completely different experience.
Operations, but it is, these Russian Spetsnaz teams, these teams of Russians who go behind Ukrainian lines and work from behind the lines. And I was with a group and we went to Chernobyl, and part of the reason, that soldiers were insisting that they go first was because, they were worried about saboteur groups in the Chernobyl area, and they're up working on that border, and Ukrainians are, they're joking that they're hunting the Russians in Chernobyl, but it's 100% true. Um, the commonness of it is quite unclear, but I think that the Russian information and the Russian teams are doing a good job of spreading that fear that comes with it. If you're afraid that someone is going to enter your blindage and kill you in the middle of the night that you don't know because they got behind the line, it's gonna keep everybody scared. And we had that experience in Chernobyl where they were very, on edge and making sure that nothing happened. And also, it's very heavily mined as well. So that adds another component to exactly how difficult movement across the line and across deoccupied areas is.
I mean,
Yeah.
as you start your presentation, this
Mhm.
is I mean, it's a very emotional journey for you,
Oh, absolutely. I
right?
don't remember how I took part of these pictures, honestly.
Huh.
Yeah.
And how does that play into when you're going out to shoot? I mean, like what's in your head as you come upon a scene, an image, how do you think about that?
I think with this project specifically, because it was the project, um, because I think like the first year of me photographing was very different. It was also very different time, but these photographs are very intuitive. Many of them are very, as I also said in one of the interviews, like I photograph through the body. So it's almost like this instinctive gut reaction that I have to the photograph or the scene that is being photographed. And this also explains the nature of the photographs that I have in this project, because some of them are, documentary photographs of something that I want to photograph deliberately, some situation or some group of people, but it's also visual diaries. So some photographs I take on like medium format camera, but some I take on like toy camera, those disposable little cameras, or like on smaller 35 millimeter cameras. So something very like um Henri Cartier-Bresson, like the split second of something. Yeah, so very, very intuitive.
I like exhibiting, I like talking about it. I draw my energy from others, and you have to meet others and you have to make excuses for others. Also collaboration with people like you, Frank, and everyone else keeps me really at the energy levels that I want. I'm healthy, and I try to do the best I can. Um, and it's a lot of factors that coming together, and a lot of blessing and privilege to be in a very creative organization that the school is, to have good industry friends that will give me great advice, um, be open with people that are in return open to me and to my work, having great mentors, um, and really trying being a good mentor instead of a tormentor to the people who are younger than me. So it's a very mixed bag. Stealing time from my family to hide upstairs in the studio, and them accepting me back as soon as I emerge, and being married to the right girl and having great kids.
Great.
So this is Dreams of Childhood. This is a project I did during an art residency in Johannesburg, and I worked with the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital to translate where children's imagination went when they were stuck in hospitals. And so it was just about transforming the spaces that are generally quite sad and quite frustrating, I would say, when you're stuck without your health, and just trying to make a point of the dreams that children had despite the hardship. And so I would say that this was the kernel that led to eventually creating the project I have today. You've seen this project before, and it's just, children that dream of going to far off countries on balloons, or going to the Met Gala because they want to be a designer and they want a huge pink dress, or eating all the cakes in the world. Unfortunately, most countries that, don't have a lot of resources, most of these children will unfortunately pass away. This child, for example, passed away last year, and she wanted to eat all the cakes in the world, and she couldn't. And, here we are. These photos are now in the hospital and with the families, and the whole objective was to kind of honor the children, but also preserve them in a moment of joy and preserve their dreams and their hopes, so that the memory isn't all dark and dire and bleak. And so I ended up going to Ukraine on one trip and doing the same thing there. And of course, when you have topics of war, what emerges is there are darker thematics. And believe it or not, this young girl was only 3 years old. She's very tiny. She obviously didn't speak English. I don't speak Ukrainian, so we had her mother translating. And it was all a bit a process of kind of understanding how much of the war was actually within her grasp, within her understanding. And so this creature to the left of her is called Sirena Galova in Ukraine. And it's this monster that effectively has sirens for ears. And, she was associating it with the air raid sirens, which go off all the time. And she said she was just really scared of this monster. And she had to explain to me what it was and where it came from. And she actually showed me photos online, and they're quite, scary. But she was perfectly attuned to the fact that she knew that when these air raid sirens happened, they either had to go to a bunker, or there were going to be some loud noises, or, and she was scared of it. And so the whole point of this image was that she wanted to confront that monster and wanted to give them a letter, which is what she's holding in her right hand. In order to be able to confront the monster, she needed multiple magic wands, which is what we attempted to do with those lights in the background. And she wanted flowers, and she wanted a pink dress. And when she first came out, we built this monster because obviously I didn't know when I went what the children were going to dream of. It's a walking machine. And it's a walking machine that's just decorated with some fabric and rope, that was already at the hospital, and things. And she decided to actually write a letter to this monster. And inside of that letter, it says, "Dear Sirena Galova, Superman will beat you."
And journalists.
But that's sort of a natural evolution, right? As war gets more entrenched, you need order. I would assume that's their thinking, right? And you have to be
Yeah.
safe.
And yeah, they don't want to take responsibility if something happens to a
Yeah.
Western journalist. There's a lot of fear that one journalist, which has happened, that they'll post something without clearing it through the proper channels, and it'll get people killed. There's been incidents where that has happened, where positions have been leaked because someone posted onto their wire service something that was so identifiable that it just gave it away. And so there's a lot more strict rules. That's why press officers are a lot. You can't share anything until it is cleared, and if you don't do that, then you will get your accreditation taken. They've had to completely change everything, and it's made it a lot harder to function in Ukraine, because you have to prep and prepare and request and file documents and all these things, whereas before you just show up and say, "Hey, show me your things," and then
Right.
they'd be like, "Yeah."
So this collection here is sort of like a family album.
It's not about it's more about my tribute to the land, to the region. The very work, very raw name of the project is Love Letter to Donbass, which is it. It's tough to love this place, but I don't have any other like motherland. This is my balcony, and I have the flag of the region in my balcony, which is sun rising above the sea of coal, because it's heavily industrialized region. And it's really tough to love it. And sometimes people in Ukraine, in like western parts of Ukraine, say like, why should we send soldiers to die there? Basically, it's just like an empty land and nothing there, nothing to love, nothing to fight for. So I guess my project is also attempt to show that it's worth to fight for this land. It's no different than any other place on the earth with, yeah, sure, like lots of problems, and but also moments like this, right? Like boys in the seashore.
Yeah.
In the lake near the shore. I mean, I studied in upstate New York, and that was myself in when I was doing master's degree in 2017. It could be.
And being on a bike, advantages, disadvantages. Can you speak?
No disadvantage that I see, because it to me all advantage. The places I could get to and the opportunity that it allowed to open things up. Like here, I'm just at a regular gas station. It's probably a fairly rural area, so people don't speak English. But because you arrive on a motorcycle, there's something different about it, and there's immediate opening with people that you might not have. If you and I pulled up in a car, we're talking to each other. We've got a little unit. We're not open. Being alone and being on the motorcycle, there's some level of interest that just moves people's perspective, and that's what opened up so many of the stories that I did, was arriving. So for me, it was pure advantage.
Yeah.
No disadvantages at all. I mean, some days when it was 100 degrees and sweaty, I was thinking, God, I could really, I'm in full adventure gear, because if I crash, I don't want to get injured. You can see the heavy pants and boots, but I'm like, I could really do it being in an air-conditioned car right now. But no, that would be the only disadvantage.
So there you have it. That's our real number one of highlights for 2025. Again, I thank everyone for being part of our community, and looking forward to a great 2026. And you'll be getting notices from us as we move along. So thank you all very much. Be healthy and happy for the coming year.